We read the story about the Samaritan woman in today's gospel. What could Jesus have meant when he said in verse 23, "But the hour is coming and is now here when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. And indeed, the Father seeks such people to worship Him." Anong ibig sabihin ni Jesus? To worship in spirit and in truth. Well, we can only answer this question by going back to the very start of the conversation between Jesus and the Samaritan woman by the well. Humihingi lang naman siya ng tubig na maiinom, ang daming sinabi ng babae. Ba't daw siya kinakausap, gayong Samaritano siya? In verse 10, Jesus answered the woman. And he said, "Kung alam mo lang, if only you knew the gift of God, if only you knew the gift of God, and who is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." Dalawang bagay binabanggit ni Jesus dito. Two things. First, the gift of God. And the second, the identity of the one who is asking for water, namely himself. So, paano bang related itong dalawang bagay na ito, gift and identity, doon sa worshiping in spirit and in truth? The spirit is the gift. Ang regalo ay ang spiritu, whom Jesus describes as the living water. And secondly, the truth has to do with the identity of Jesus. That this one who is asking for water, is the Messiah, the one through whom God's gift of the Spirit will be poured out to the world like living water. Magandang reminders ng mga to on this very day that we are celebrating the anniversary of the dedication of our cathedral in the Diocese of Caloocan, the San Roque Cathedral. True worship is actually not about a place, but rather about the disposition to receive the gift of all gifts. Ang kaloob ng lahat ng mga kaloob ay ang Espiritu. The Spirit who will make it possible for us to experience a rebirthing, a renewal, to be able to live the new humanity of Christ as members of His body, the Church. Only Christ can reveal to us the truth. Di ba yun ang sabi nung Samaritan woman? He told me everything about myself. Parang mas kilala pa niya ako kaysa pagkilala ko sa sarili ko. Everything about ourselves, about our call to participate in His mission, the call to be mediators of the new covenant, the permanent bridge or connection between heaven and earth. I am sure I've told you once about that story in Genesis chapter 28 that is called the dream of Jacob. In chapter 28, we hear the story. One day, Jacob was traveling. Inabot siya ng gabi, and, well, he rested his head on a stone and fell asleep. Nakatulog siya. And he started to have a dream. And in his dream, he saw a stairway to heaven. or rather, a bridge connecting heaven and earth. Well, dahil vertical yung bridge, we call it a stairway. A bridge connecting heaven and earth, connecting God and humankind. At meron daw angels na paakyat at pababa. And God was face to face with Jacob. And we're also told na paggising daw ni Jacob from that dream, he anointed the stone with oil. That should remind us that when this cathedral was dedicated, the altar was anointed also with oil, an age-old practice in our Judeo-Christian faith. He anointed with oil the very stone on which he rested his head, kung saan siya nakatulog at kung saan siya nanaginip. And he declared it as a sacred place of worship. And he called it Bethel. Bethel. In Hebrew, dalawang salita yon. Beth is house. El is God. Bethel means the house of God. Ang tahanan ng Diyos. Well, this dream actually represents the mission of Jacob as a personification of the Israelite people. The mission to be mediator of the covenant, to be the very bridge between God and humankind. In the Gospel of John, itong bridge na to will become the Son of Man himself. If you remember that encounter with Nathanael, when Jesus said, "You will see greater things. You will see the heavens opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." Hindi binanggit ni Jesus angels ascending and descending on the stairway. The stairway or the bridge is the Son of Man, meaning the bridge becomes Christ himself. Christ in whom humanity and divinity have been united in one person. Di ba? Diyos na totoo, taong totoo, pero iisang persona. And so by receiving His gift of the Holy Spirit, we are also empowered to live in Him, to take part in His mission, to become bridges ourselves. To become bridges ourselves. And that should be the fruit of worshiping in spirit and in truth. We become the very temple, the very house of God. Di ba sinabi niya, "In my Father's house, there are many rooms." The home of God, which is ready to make space for all people who are ready to respond to the invitation to love God above all and to love one's neighbor as oneself, to respond to the invitation to love one another as Christ has loved us. So today that we celebrate the dedication of our cathedral, we are reminded of the presence of the Ark of the Covenant in the Temple of Jerusalem. Wala namang laman yung Ark of the Covenant, kundi yung symbols of the covenant, the 10 commandments that were summarized by Jesus into love God above all and love your neighbor as yourself.